If you are using AI to get promoted, this video will change how you approach it. Most people assume that doing your job better and having more output is what will earn you the next title. But after more than 10 years in the corporate world, I learned the hard way that that's not always the case. Promotions don't go to the highest performers, but they go to the most visible ones. And visibility has nothing to do with how many tasks you are closing. So if you are using AI like everybody else to get more things done, you are using it wrong. Instead, I will show you 5 AI workflows that you can start using from today to run a genuine promotion campaign. But first, I will show you where the promotion decision actually happens, because once you see that, everything else will fall into place. Most people have the same mental model about how promotions work. You do good work throughout the year, so your manager will notice, the annual review will come around, and if the year has been good, you move up, right? Well, as it turns out, not quite. In companies of a certain size, your manager is not the only person involved in the decision. Most large companies run what is called a calibration meeting, which essentially is a room with 4 to 6 people, sometimes with HR, sometimes with your manager's manager, and collectively they agree who is ready to move up in the next cycle. So your manager, not you, is the one who's there arguing for you. And they are doing so against 5 other managers who are trying the same for their employees. So you need to start thinking about it in a bit of a different way. Essentially, your manager is your sales representative in that room. And no good sales representative will go into a pitch meeting without having a brief ahead. So your job is writing that brief. Because eventually your visibility problem becomes your manager's ammunition problem. They want to advocate for you, but they need material to do so. And your job, besides doing, of course, a good job, is making sure that they have that material ready. That's what these 5 AI systems do for you. They build the case while you focus on the actual work. Let me show you. The foundation of everything I'm going to show you, it's something that most people do not set up until it's too late. For many years, I noticed that when I had to do my own performance review, I was failing to capture really all the achievements I had during the year. Every December, when the time was arriving, I was essentially writing my own self-assessment from memory. And while I would say that my memory is quite good, most people's memory for work is quite terrible. Typically, we tend to remember well the last 8 to 12 weeks, and we lose track about everything that happened before, like that project that you saved in March, or that stakeholder that you convinced in June, which later on allowed you to pass the milestone in July. So eventually, at the end of the year, when you have to write your own self-assessment, you write something like, I delivered X project, I contributed to Y project, I helped with Z task. And it's accurate, it's real thing that happened, but it's actually quite thin. Because eventually it reads more like just a list of topics that you handle rather than a case on why you should be promoted, which is actually what your manager will need in that calibration meeting. Which eventually means that that decision maker who needs to hear about that big achievement you had in your project in March essentially just hear something vague like great cross-functional project teamwork. So the best way to solve this problem is what I call a wins log. And essentially it's an Excel file where week by week you capture the impact you had throughout the year. And now with Copilot, you can do it in just one prompt. It's very easy. Let me show you. Basically, what you want to do is at the end of every week, just go to Copilot and prompt the following. Search through my emails and Teams messages from the last 7 days and identify any wins, completed deliverables, positive feedback I received, or key decisions I drove. List each one with a brief description. And as you can see, Copilot will surface what are the key wins that it's gathering from your emails, but also from your Teams messages, which you can review and decide which ones are the ones that you want to make sure that you still remember by the end of the year. Like, for example, in this case, let's say I want to remember win number 1 and win number 3. In such case, I would prompt afterwards something like this. Take wins 1 and 3 and format each one as a structured impact statement with 4 parts. First, the week, in week format 01 to week 52. Then the context, what was the situation for this win. Then the action, what is it that I specifically did. And the outcome, what is the measurable or meaningful result that I achieved. Write it in first person, 2 to 3 sentences per entry, and on a table format, which eventually will make it easy then to copy paste into my Excel. And it will take a few seconds, but eventually, as you can see, it took wins number 1 and 3 and it formatted them in the table that I wanted, which essentially means that I can take this and copy paste it into an Excel where I'm storing all the wins from every single week. Now, in all honesty, will this catch everything? Well, not always, but in my experience, it gets already 90% of the things you might have remembered, maybe sometimes even some things you might have forgotten, and it does so in a fraction of the time. And of course, you can always add yourself anything that it might have missed. The whole point is that this will do already 90% of the lifting, so you can do the remaining 10% and then just have it in an easy format that you can copy into your wins log in Excel. That's the first system, the evidence-based. You can do this every single Friday, and by the end of the year, you're gonna have 52 weeks of evidence in that Excel file. But having this full year of wins might still will read as a list of things that you accomplish and not necessarily as something that makes you capable of taking the next step and getting your promotion, unless you hold it up against the bar that you are being measured upon. And that's exactly what the next system does. Now let's open the wins log and let's pull a win, like for example, this one of week 7. And by the way, this exact tracker and all the prompts I'm using in the video are in a free kit that I'm linking down below. FX rates in the revenue model were being updated by hand and quietly drifting, creating a recurring 6-figure error risk in reported revenue. Which is true, but written like this sounds as something completely forgettable because it's more of a task that you accomplish rather than something that makes you ready for the next level. And this is the part that almost nobody gets right. You are being measured against a specific bar on what it takes to go to the next level up, because typically there is a job description with actual competences that are expected at each level, and most people have not even read it. So what you want to do here is give AI both halves and prompt something like the following. Attached is the official job description for the role 1 level above mine. Rewrite the week 7 accomplishment of my wins log, see the screenshot attached, as evidence that I already operate at that level, using the competencies and scope from the job description. Keep it strictly truthful to what I actually did, and give me a 2 to 3 sentence version for my performance review. And after thinking for a bit, look at what it came back with. Looked at the job description, and it understood that if I want to operate as a senior business analyst, it is important to demonstrate how you can operate autonomously, reduce commercial risk, and redesign processes with automated workflows. And as you can see, it just rewrote the entire achievement in such a way that it makes sure that it caters for those specific job requirements. So this is basically the exact same wins that I had before, the exact same factual data, but now it's speaking in the company's language and it's mapped to the actual skills that your company is using to promote people. So this second system, essentially what it does is turning productive into promotable. And the best thing is that you don't have to do it every single Friday, week by week, like I just demonstrated, but you can run it at the end of the year just once using the exact same kind of prompt and rephrase your entire wins log into something that makes it clear that you're ready for the next level. Alright, so now you know how to build your case, but the problem is that you will still not be in the room where this case needs to be presented to the other stakeholders, and that's where the next system will come in handy. Essentially, your manager will be the one arguing for you in rooms that you are not even invited to. And this third system will make sure that every week they have the right brief to defend you whenever it matters. Now for this, ideally, you want to use your weekly one-to-one with your manager, because if you think about it, this is the only meeting in your agenda where your manager's full attention is on you. Assuming, of course, that it doesn't get rescheduled for the 3rd time in a row, but if that's the case, then you just need a different manager. So what you want to do before your one-to-one is take the entries of last week in your wins log and paste them into Copilot with a prompt like this. Using my wins log from the last week, draft an agenda for my next one-to-one with my manager. Pull out the 2 or 3 highest impact wins and write a one-line narrative that connects them to the level I'm aiming for. Keep it short enough to cover in 15 minutes. Typically, you might have more time in your one-to-one, but you also want to use it for other topics, so that's why I try to keep it concise, 15 minutes, so you still have room for the rest. See here the wins, and then you can just paste from your Excel file what are the wins that you had that last week. And this, of course, will take a few seconds, but what you see is that it took the wins that I pasted and it framed them against the job description and also gave me a bit of a one-line narrative that I can use across the meeting. And it also gave some guidance on how I can introduce the topic, what are the key elements that I want to highlight from each of the wins, but also some asks that I can bring to my manager if I want to be more explicit about it. Like, for example, in this case, hey, can we quantify the recurrent time saving and log it somewhere visible for promotion evidence? And there's also a very concrete ask that you can bring to your manager at the end of the meeting. And of course, you can just review this, adjust what it feels maybe a bit off, and you can walk into the meeting with a clear idea on how are you going to bring this message to your manager, which at the same time will make sure that your manager sees you as somebody who's professional and intentional about what you do. Because in a corporate world where people just show up to meetings many times without preparation and just to give status updates in these one-to-ones, you will be the one standing out because you come with a clear structure, clear message, and clear points that you want to bring across to your manager in every single meeting. But of course, bringing in your manager will not be enough because, as you very well know, sometimes promotion also depends on people who are 1 level or 2 levels up, and that's where the next system will come in handy. Now, as you know, the hardest people to reach out are those who are 1 or 2 levels up because they are never in the same room as you, and they only see fragments of you here and there or hear things from other people here and there. Now here, the obvious move is to just broadcast everything you are doing, and you can use platforms like LinkedIn for it, but most people decide to stay quiet because they know that posting on LinkedIn feels a bit like bragging and it makes them feel uncomfortable, which I fully get. It's also the case for me. And in a way is fair, but you need to understand that this comes at a cost because those leaders that have an influence on your promotion typically are very active on those platforms, and that's that's a place where you can get easy visibility towards them. So if you never show up, you are pretty much invisible, and being invisible doesn't get you promoted. But here an alternative is posting within Viv Engage, which essentially is like LinkedIn but within the company walls, and basically leaders are there for the exact same reasons. They still check everything and brag about all the achievements they've done. But for you, it might feel safer because basically your friends and family are not there, so it feels a bit safer. Now here the workflow is quite simple. Once a month or as often as you feel comfortable, you want to take one entry from your wins log and go to Copilot prompting something like this. Take the following work win and turn it into a Viv Engage post. Lead with the outcome or an insight other teams can reuse. Give credit to the people involved and keep it factual and useful rather than self-promotional. Keep it to 2 short paragraphs written so someone a couple of levels above me would find it worth reading. And then you can paste there your work win. And in just a matter of seconds, you will see that Copilot is coming back with something that reads as somebody who wants to be useful to other teams rather than just bragging, which is exactly the point that you want to bring. Now, I can tell you that the first post will feel completely awkward, and that's totally normal. But if you stay consistent, you will see something quietly changing, because eventually you're gonna start showing in the feeds of those leaders who are never in the room with you and they never get emails from you, but in this way, they can get an image of who you are. And the most important thing, these are the people that might be in that calibration meeting that you will never be invited to. Alright, so eventually the annual review season will come around, and if you have followed these systems, you will not have to spend an entire evening trying to reconstruct from memory everything you've done or scrolling through all emails to try to understand what you did in February. Because now you got an entire wins log with 52 weeks of wins quantified, and you can summarize that into a self-assessment report with a prompt in Copilot like this one. Using my full wins log for the year and the attached job description for the level above mine, write my year-end performance review. Group the wins under the competencies from the job description, lead each section with the strongest evidence, and keep it strictly truthful to what I actually did. And there you go. You can see that Copilot organized an entire full year around the exact bar that you are being measured against in just about a minute. And you can see it organized everything in different categories that it took from the job description, like stakeholder management and influence, or for example, process improvements and automation. And for each of them, there's plenty of evidence of many of your achievements throughout the year related to those specific categories that it identified. Now, this is pretty much the only time that you will see the entire document at once, and you barely had to write any word of it. And of course, this is a very extensive one, so probably you don't want to use the entire thing, but you can always refine, remove some of the things. And what is also important is that it gives you at the end a table structuring how this maps to operating at a senior level, which essentially is what you want to demonstrate if you want to get that promotion. And of course, if your company is using certain ways to set your goals, you want to make sure that you incorporate those across your entire workflow for the 5 systems that we described. So let's say that, for example, you always set all your goals following the STAR method, then you want to make sure that you also capture them in such way into your wins log so that when you write your end of year performance review, it already comes out in that format. Now have a look at everything that you have actually built. The evidence captured every Friday. The argument translated into the company's language for promotion. Your manager is now fully prepared for the room that you will never be invited to. And your name is landing in front of the leaders who are 1 or 2 levels up. All these systems are pulling into the exact same direction, taking work that you've actually done, making sure it can be presented as promotable, and making sure it's visible for those people who have a say in your promotion. Now, the main point of this video is that visibility will always beat raw output. And while this is of course true to get a promotion, you of course still need to get your work done. So the faster you can get rid of any busy work, the more room you will have to run all these workflows. And that's why in this video, I will show you 4 Copilot notebook workflows that help me cut my workload in half. I'll see you over there.